Hello everyone, it's Alex, and today I'm going to show you how I managed to print images from a modern computer on this old Apple ImageWriter. I recently purchased this Apple ImageWriter printer off of eBay for use with my MIDIac project, which is a machine that plays music on vintage computer hardware. Now, all I really needed out of the printer was the print head so that I can modulate the frequency of the pins hitting the paper to make music. So I bought an untested printer since I didn't really need the rest of it to work. But nonetheless, I wanted to see if it worked because I have a Macintosh 128K that I could use it with. So I plugged the power cord into the printer, and I plugged the other end of the cord into the outlet, and the good news was there was no smoke or explosion when I plugged it in. So then I tried powering it on, and to my surprise, when I pressed the power button, the print had homed itself. Next, I tried feeding paper through the printer with the line feed button, and that worked perfectly too. So then I decided to run the printer's built-in self-test to see if it could actually, print stuff. And sure enough, it started printing when I ran the self-test. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that there were little gaps in the letters in some places, which means that one of the pins on the print head is broken, but I could hardly complain. So next, I decided to plug the printer into my old Macintosh 128K so that I could see if it could communicate over its serial port. So I plugged the cable in between the printer and the old Macintosh, and then I fired up the Mac and inserted my Mac Paint disk into the floppy disk slot. And then I waited for the thing to boot up. This sequence has been shortened a lot because it took forever to boot up. And then once it was up, I clicked on Mac Paint and waited for the program to launch. And then I opened the system error bomb that I'd drawn in Mac Paint a while back to see if I could get it to print. And sure enough, when I hit the print button, it started printing. Next, I tried printing out this Happy Mac that I drew in Mac Paint's Fat Bits mode. And as you can see here, it worked perfectly as well. So upon closer inspection of the final products, we can see the place where the bad head leaves marks through the image. It's more pronounced on the bomb than it is on the Happy Mac, but I'm still quite pleased with the results. While I was messing around with the printer, I thought that it would be really neat if I could print from a modern computer on this old Apple ImageWriter, and the more I thought about it, the more I thought it might actually be possible. So here is how I managed to get that to work. So the first challenge was to actually connect the old printer to a modern computer. The printer communicates using the RS-422 protocol, in which the receive and transmit lines each consist of two separate wires, one carrying the positive half of the signal and the other carrying the negative half of the signal. We need to convert this to the much more common RS-232 protocol, in which there is only one transmit wire and only one receive wire. To do this, I use this RS-422 to RS-232 breakout board that I bought off the internet. Now this breakout board is going to be connected to this Arduino Mega, which will in turn communicate with the modern computer. Now let's get to the wiring. So the first thing I did was I screwed wires into the screw terminals on the RS-232 into the breakout board and plugged them into the RX and TX lines of the Arduino. Next, I plugged the 5-volt and ground wires from the breakout board into the corresponding plugs on the Arduino. Now we can move on to wiring the breakout board to the printer itself. So first, I took some male to female jumpers and screwed the male ends into the RS-422 end of the breakout board. Then I plugged the other ends of the wires into their corresponding plugs on the printer's DB9 connector. Now I moved on to the software side of things. This is the program that runs on the Arduino. It simply listens for information coming over the USB cable from the modern computer and sends it through the breakout board to the printer. We can confirm that this works by going into the serial monitor. After confirming that the serial monitor is set to a 9600 baud rate and that it is set to both carriage return and line feed, we can type something in the box at the top of the serial monitor, and when we hit enter, it should print on the printer. Well, there it is, so we know that that part of the code is working. This piece of Python code is significantly more complicated than the Arduino sketch that I showed you earlier, and that's because it has to do a whole lot more than the Arduino sketch does. First, this program has to accept an image and convert it into monochrome so that the printer can print it. Then it has to convert the monochrome image into a format that the printer can understand. And finally, it has to send the image in chunks of 8 lines at a time to the printer, since the printer has 8 pins on its dot matrix head. Before we move on, I would like to explain how the code converts the image into monochrome because I find its process of producing grays to be very interesting. So take this picture of a cat, for instance, and now the cat in monochrome. Well, you may be wondering how there are so many grays in the picture when the cat is completely monochrome, just black and white. Well, if you zoom in on the image, you will see that it is just black and white, but that when a black and a white pixel are placed really close to each other, it appears to be gray when the image is zoomed out. This process is known as dithering, and it is how all the compact Macs, as well as the ImageWriter, produce their gray colors. Now let's try to actually print something on this thing. So I chose to print this image of a Macintosh 128K because it is, after all, the computer this printer was designed to be used with. So we need to note the horizontal resolution of this image in order to set the printer into the right graphics mode to print it. In this case, the resolution is 572 pixels. Now we need to head over to the ImageWriter manual to see how this value corresponds to the control codes. So we need to look in the approximate dots per line category and find the number in that category that is closest to the horizontal resolution of our image, but no smaller than the horizontal resolution of the image. For my 572 pixel image, the 576 pixel option is the best one to pick. Picking the graphics mode like this ensures that the image fills up as much of the page as possible without being too large to fit on the page. If the horizontal resolution of your image is even larger than that of the highest resolution graphics mode, you can always resize the image like I am doing in Microsoft Paint right here. Now we need to look in the upper table in the ImageWriter User's Manual to see which control code our graphics mode corresponds to. Since my graphics mode is the first mode listed in the bottom table, it corresponds to the first code listed in the top table, so my control code is escape in. I can enter my control code into the Python program right here so that the printer knows which graphics mode to use. To run this program and print an image, I opened a command prompt window and navigated to the folder where I have the program stored. Once I was in the folder, I typed this command to run the program. Now let me explain what this command does. The first part of the command that says iwprint.py runs the Python program that I created. The second part that says COM7 specifies the COM port that my Arduino is connected to. The third part that says show image tells the computer to show a preview of the monochrome image before it prints it. And finally, the fourth part that says mac128k.jpg tells the computer which picture I want it to print. Once I hit enter on my keyboard to run the program, a preview of the monochrome image that the printer is going to print comes up on my screen. It doesn't look too bad considering that it's monochrome. Looking over at the printer, it seems to be printing the image just fine, but I'm going to speed this up a little bit for you because it took over 5 minutes to print this image. Well, it looks like it's done printing, so let's pull this off and check it out. The image looks quite nice to me. I'm surprised at how good the image quality is considering how old this printer is. You can still see the lines where the bad head is, but overall I think the image looks really great. Now let me show you a few other images that I printed on this thing. This is a picture of a Macintosh Color Classic that I printed on the ImageWriter. Here's a picture of that cat from the dithering example earlier in the video. And finally, here are two nice brand new iMacs. Well, that's about it for this video, so thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.